Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. This is Straightforward with Ms.B, episode 75. As we always do, sit back, relax, chill, grab your favorite vice, and let's get straight to it. So, this is a part two of our previous episode, Fall from Grace, which we discussed Wendy Williams and her. Battle with this newly introduced diagnosis of a form of dementia, as well as the docuseries that came out and the fight over guardianship. So now what we want to do on this second part is talk about a second individual who many of us have seen since last year, I would say, the end of last year. And now, where numerous lawsuits have been coming out against this mogul, Sean Diddy Combs. Um, we discussed a couple of podcasts ago in regards to the Cassie lawsuit. We dove into that situation. A lot of information came out. Over the years, there's always been rumblings, rumors, speculations as to some of the lifestyle choices of Mr. Combs, and also his, musical dealings with individuals who was once signed to his record label, Bad Boy Records. So the result of that Cassie lawsuit not only paid off a substantial amount of money to Cassie, but what it did was also ignite others to come out and file lawsuits against Mr. Combs. Now, within this past week, another lawsuit has been dropped, a bombshell lawsuit, which many, I guess, after reading through the 75-page lawsuit, is kind of skeptical on some of the things that's included. Some have been may not be as 100% truthful. But hey, this new lawsuit also again just kind of sheds light on Mr. Combs and how he gets down. You know what I'm saying? So, producer Rodney Little Rod Jones, and this is according to the LA Times article released on the 27th of February, and the writer was Nardine Syed. Mr. Jones filed a bombshell lawsuit against Diddy, accusing the media mogul of sexually harassing and threatening him over more than a year, as well as securing footage of Diddy and several of his associates involved in illicit behavior and alleged sexual assault. Jones, who seeks $30 million in the federal lawsuit, named several high profile figures in the entertainment business in the complaint, but only Diddy's son, Justin Dior Combs, Universal Music Group chief executive Lucian Charles Grange, a former Motown record chief executive Ethiopia Habtemariam, I guess that's how I'm pronouncing her last name, Chalice Rudy or Chalice Rudis, oh excuse me, Chalice Recording Studios, the record labels, and Diddy's chief of staff Christina KK Quoram. Love Records and Combs Enterprises are all named as defendants. The network of involvement Jones claimed amounts to violation of the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, otherwise known as the RICO. The Chicago born producer, who produced 9 songs on Diddy's 2023 The Love album Off the Grid, filed the lawsuit Tuesday in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. In the 75-page complaint obtained Tuesday by the New York Times, his attorney, Tyrone A. Blackburn, said that Jones' life has been detrimentally impacted ever since. He agreed to produce the album in August 2022. Jones alleged that he was under an implied work for hire agreement with Combs and that he lived with the recording giant for months at a time in Combs' homes in Los Angeles, New York City, and Miami, as well as several weeks on a yacht rented by Combs in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went far beyond his role as a producer on the Love album, the complaint said, and that Combs required Jones to record him constantly. Damn. So he was the assistant too, huh? All right. The multi instrumentalist, describing himself as the heterosexual Christian man, alleged that he was the victim of constant unsolicited and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus by Mr. Combs and was uncomfortable with Mr. Combs' advances, expressing his complaints to Diddy's chief of staff, who allegedly told him, "You know, Sean will be Sean." In response, Blackburn described Karam KK, which is the chief of staff, as the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, Lord. He also alleged that Combs tried to groom him into engaging in sex with fellow producer Stephen Aaron Jordan, aka Stevie J from Love and Hip Hop, and promised to make sure that Mr. Jones wins Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he engaged in homosexuality. He also provided Jones with alleged footage of people involved in sexual activity in Combs' home, which Jones believed was procured through hidden cameras throughout Diddy's properties. Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak off parties and his house parties, the complaint said. Upon information and belief due to the treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and is untouchable. Jones also alleged that he was sexually assaulted by a cousin or assistant of rapper Young Miami, who has dated Diddy, was sexually harassed and assaulted by Oscar winner Cuba Gooding Jr., oh Lord, and obtained footage of a rapper and an R&B singer whose name have been redacted from the complaint, consorting with the underage girls and sex workers. On several occasions, Mr. Combs took Mr. Jones' cell phone and began recording himself. As a result, Mr. Jones has secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity, the complaint said, which includes screenshots of several of the incidents mentioned in the complaint. The producer said that he secured irrefutable evidence of illicit activity, including Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes, and the rapper's acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms, as well as displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms. Now, the article goes into an incident that he talks about that happened at the Chalice Recording Studios in Los Angeles, but we're going to go through the actual lawsuit. So we'll cover that part. Now, it is 75 pages, but I am going to try to go through it and touch on the most important parts as quickly as I possibly can. But again, Mr. Jones' attorney just basically stated we have overwhelming, indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies. Our attempts to share this proof with Mr. Jones' attorney. Oh, this is this. I guess this is Sean Combs' attorney, Sean Hawley, called Mr. Jones a liar and accused him of shamelessly looking for an undeserved payday. His reckless name dropping about events that are pure fiction and simply did not happen is nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines. We are overwhelmingly indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies. Our attempts to share this proof with Mr. Jones' attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, have been ignored as Mr. Blackburn refuses to return our calls. We will address these outlandish allegations in court and take all the appropriate action against those who make them. And that was Sean Combs' attorney. All right, so looking at this particular lawsuit, like I said, it is 75 pages. And there are photos in here, screenshots of videos, and just other information. So it's Rodney Jones, plaintiff, versus Sean Combs, Justin Combs, Ethiopia, Habert Tamarium, Lucian Charles Grange, Christina Coram, Chalice Recording Studios, Love Records, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, Combs Global Enterprises, John and Jane Doe's 1 through 10, and ABC Corporations 1 through 10. This is case number 24-1457, filed in the United States Federal Court, Southern District of New York. As did the Cassie lawsuit, this lawsuit as well, on page 1 has a trigger warning, basically letting everyone that reads this document, which is of public record, that this document contains highly graphic information of a sexual nature, including sexual assault. Additionally, there are graphic images of the aftermath of a shooting, redacted images of sexual intercourse, redacted images of minors, sex workers, and prostitutes, details of sex trafficking, and the illegal distribution of guns and drugs. That's the trigger warning. Okay. Let's see here. Jurisdiction, and I don't want to go through that part. We talked about all the parties involved. And then they actually have photos of each individual. Now, this picture they got of Puffy in here. Oh my God, Puff, you looking like goddamn, what's his name? Not Samuel Jackson. What's the other old actor name? Oh, I can't think of the man name. This picture got him with his gray hair showing. You know, Puffy normally keep a clean cut. He keep the Beijing dye on his beard and his hair, but he's looking real rough and stressed out. Why did they pick this photo? This is absolutely crazy. But basically, on page 3, they have a photo of Puff as the first defendant. And they talk about how he is the father of Justin Combs, who's the second defendant in here. And they have a picture of Justin Combs. Then they have a photo of Lucian Charles Grange or Grange. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but he is the CEO of Universal Music Group. They have a photo of Ethiopia, which I've heard her name before. She's the former CEO of Motown Records. All right. Man, they got these folks' addresses in here. Why they got these? They could have redacted the addresses now. This is crazy. They could have redacted these people. They have these people addresses on here, like where they live. This is so crazy. They have the chief of staff to Sean Diddy Combs, Christina Coram. They got her address on here. Wow. I can't believe they didn't redact that off of here. Chalice Recording Studios. Motown. They have their logo. Motown Records logo. UMG's logo. Love Records logo. And Combs Global. And then they have a photo of the plaintiff, Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Basically, he's from Chicago. He was a child prodigy, playing multiple instruments. He started playing at the age of 5, playing drums in the church. At 13, he picked up the guitar. Um, Overall, he plays 13 instruments. He's considered a musical prodigy. He's worked with in and out of the Chicago music scene for legendary greats such as the Georgia Mash Choir, Donald Lawrence, the Clark Sisters, and Smokey Norfolk. In August 22nd, he received a call from Mr. Combs requesting that he produce several songs on his rhythm and blues album, The Love Album, which happened to be a very, very great album. And the album itself was also nominated for a Grammy this year. And then they kind of go through a series of events that happened from September 2022 to November 2023. Mr. Jones produced 9 songs on Mr. Combs' Love album. Mr. Jones lived with Mr. Combs for months at a time, spending his holidays, birthdays, and missing major family events. Mr. Jones resided at Mr. Combs' residence located in LA, New York City, and Miami, and also spent several weeks on a yacht in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Throughout this time, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went far beyond his role as a producer on the Love album. The claims raised in this complaint have been corroborated through witness statements, video, audio recordings, and images that Mr. Jones has in his possession. Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones to record him constantly. On several occasions, Mr. Combs took Mr. Jones' cell phone and began recording himself. As a result, Mr. Jones has secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity. Mr. Jones has secured irrefutable evidence of the acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, and marijuana and mushrooms. B, the displaying and distribution of unregistered legal firearms. C, Mr. Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes in California, New York, and Virgin Islands and Florida. Mr. Combs, Chief of Staff, KK, instructing her staff to retrieve drugs so she can provide it to Mr. Combs for his consumption. Christian Combs drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit. And we talked about that on a previous episode of this podcast as well. As a matter of fact, that's probably one of my highest viewed episodes on YouTube. So if you have not seen it, definitely check it out. This was episode 70 on Straightforward with Ms.B, where we talked about T.D. Jakes. Okay, G, Young Miami cousin or assistant sexually assaulting Mr. Jones. Oh, God, Young Miami. Hey. Actor Cuban Gooding Jr. sexually harassing and assaulting Mr. Jones. Rapper, footnote noted number 3, on Mr. Combs' yacht, consorting with underage girls, sex workers, and an R&B singer, which was also named redacted, in Mr. Combs' LA home, consorting with underage girls and sex workers. And so many are on the internet, especially social media and Twitter specifically, or X is what it's called now. The rapper, that name who was redacted, if you go to the footnote here on page 8 of this lawsuit, it basically states that this rapper is a Philadelphia native who dated Nicki Minaj. And we all know that to be none other than Meek Millie. And Meek Millie and academics have been going back and forth, like I said, on the X app all day yesterday, today, this morning. I think they've continued the conversation as well. Meek Mill, child, I don't know why you go against the bloggers. It doesn't make sense if you going against academics. Is just doing his job as a media personality and a streamer. He's reading the lawsuit the same as I'm reading the lawsuit right now. So why are you, directing your frustration out on him? It's not his fault. It's in the lawsuit. You should be going against Mr. Jones or Mr. Jones's attorney. Like, come on now, dude. Anyway, you just look guilty at this point, Meek Mill. But anyway, moving on. Like I stated in the LA Times article, they did talk about the Chalice recording studio shooting. So on page 8, they start to go into this. So basically what happened was on September 12th of 2022, Mr. Combs, he held a writers and producers camp at Chalice Recording Studio, which is located in Los Angeles. At the camp was Mr. Combs, his son Justin, Justin's friend named G. G was a 30-year-old tall African American male. In addition to these individuals, other musicians were present at the camp. This writer has spoken to several musicians who attended the camp. One evening during this camp, Mr. Combs, J. Combs, and G were in a heated conversation. The conversation was then moved out of the studio and into a restroom adjacent to where Mr. Jones was sitting. Mr. Jones was approximately 2 feet away from the bathroom when gunshots rang out. Mr. Jones recalled hearing multiple gunshots. Mr. Jones immediately went into a state of shock and feared that he would be shot next. Mr. Jones genuinely believed that he would be shot through the door due to how close he was. After the shooting ended, a crowd gathered around the restroom. When the door finally opened, Mr. Combs and Justin exited. G, however, was lying on the restroom floor in a fetal position, holding his stomach and bleeding out of his leg and hip area. Everyone stood around looking upon G. Frustrated by the lack of aid to G, Mr. Jones dropped everything, ran to G, and immediately began placing pressure on G's gunshot wound to his stomach. As he was applying pressure on his stomach, Mr. Jones realized that G was gushing blood from another area near his leg and hip. He decided to lift G and place him to sit on the toilet. Mr. Jones asked the crowd to call the ambulance. Mr. Jones lifted G and brought him to the ambulance at the studio's front. At this time, Mr. Combs and Justin disappeared to another part of the studio. Combs gave strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Jones to lie to the police, telling him that G was shot standing outside the studio by a drive-by assailant. How is that possible and you carried the nigga out? But anyway. So on page 10 of this affidavit, there is a screenshot of CBS News article titled "Man Shot Outside Party at Hollywood Recording Studio." I can't really see the date of this, but in the article, it basically reads, at least one person was shot at a party at a Hollywood recording studio. Officers were called to the 800 block of North Highland Avenue to check into reports of a shooting at about 3 o'clock in the morning. At the location, they found man had been shot after stepping outside the studio. The man in his 30s was taken to the hospital in stable condition. He was reportedly shot in the abdomen. It said no information was released about the suspect, and it's not known if the shooting was gang related. The man in his 30s was taken to a hospital in stable condition, and he was reportedly shot in the abdomen. Again, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's just a repeat. Okay. Mr. Jones has several corroborating witnesses who spoke with the writer anonymously due to fear of retaliation from Mr. Jones. They have agreed to speak publicly when they are subpoenaed. Okay. So he's saying the plaintiff is saying basically he got witnesses already on deck that can speak to this particular incident. Mr. Jones has the clothing he wore that day and believes it still may have the stains and DNA of G's blood. The following are screenshots of the aftermath of the restroom where G was shot by either Mr. Combs or Justin. And this is on page 11. There's a photo here. Yeah, it's a lot of blood, bloody clothes in the bathroom. So, I mean, clearly it shows that something happened in that bed, in that bathroom for sure, and not outside. Clearly, G was not shot outside of the studio as Mr. Combs instructed his team to report to law enforcement. Mr. Combs and defendants provided private security for the writers' camp at Defendant CRS. I don't know what that is. Oh, the studio. The security was porous and lackluster at best. The fact that either Mr. Combs or Justin were allowed to enter the studio with guns and those guns were not confiscated by security is a clear breach of duty by Mr. Combs, the studio, UMG, Love Records, Motown Records, to protect Mr. Jones and the other attendees of this writer's camp. As a result of this shooting, Mr. Jones is severely traumatized. Mr. Jones now suffers from PTSD, severe anxiety, depression, and insomnia. All right, so this other part they go into where Mr. Jones claims that he was sexually harassed and assaulted by Mr. Combs. He said that Mr. Combs basically, on numerous occasions, just kind of did constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus. Mr. Combs would make advances and express when he expressed his discomfort to the chief of staff, KK. She basically just kind of brushed it off like, Sean will be Sean. She also attempted to downplay Mr. Combs' groping of Mr. Jones' anus and genitals as friendly horseplay. Come on now. I mean, we've seen Mr. Combs when he's lit a little bit. We've seen videos. He's always been touchy feely for sure. But to say that, I don't know. This section is kind of questionable. Mr. Jones believed that KK aided and abetted Mr. Combs, and he believes that he may have been was in the process of being groomed into accepting a homosexual relationship. One instance, he goes into talking about how producer Stevie J, he showed him, let's see, he supposedly showed him a video of Stevie J penetrating a white dude without a condom. However, this information as well, I believe it came out that there is a adult star named Knockout who said that was him on the video and it's not Stevie J. So again, I don't know how well this particular claim will hold up in court. But he did say how Puffy told him that he had engaged in sexual intercourse with, again, the rapper from Philly and also an R&B singer and Stevie J. And the quote-unquote alleged R&B singer, according to their footnote, he performed at the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency, which means this Usher. The writer of that CBS article also have a have a copy of this video and will provide it to the court. Young Miami's cousin. Okay, so my Young Miami, your name in the lawsuit now. Supposedly, one of her cousins basically tried to sexual assault Mr. Jones. He said at one point they was at Mr. Combs' house in Miami. The cousin basically came in the bathroom while he was in there, dropped to her knees and began performing oral sex on Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones said he pushed her away and then walked out the bathroom. However, the cousin did not accept his rejection. She followed him out of the bathroom, and then she started undressing. She started undressing and attempted to straddle him and have sex with him in the presence of Puff and the staff. And then on page 15 of the lawsuit, he shows a couple of photos. I'm assuming this was probably video that was recorded with the cousin with Young Miami. Child. And Young Miami look a hot ass. No, she looked crazy. And this happened on Thanksgiving Day 2022. All right, he goes on to talk about trafficking and the Victims Protection Act around February 4th, 2023. He claims that Combs forced him to bring prostitutes and sex workers back to his home in Miami. There's, again, some still shots or images of these supposed prostitutes and sex workers. He believed that on February 2nd that he was drugged. He said he recalled waking up naked, dizzy, and confused. He was in bed with two sex workers and Diddy. He also recalls walking around with no clothes on, aimlessly, dizzy. He has some more photos. Child. And they supposedly came from the Booby Trap, which is an adult club in Miami, Florida. He has some more pictures of these alleged sex workers. Again, it has come out some of these people whose, of course, their faces are kind of blurred out. You can still see their body, their tattoos, and some of these individuals whose photos were in this lawsuit have come out to state that they're not underage. They are, of age in their 30s and 20s. Of course, Mr. Jones said, hey, I didn't have no desire to be with these sex workers and whatnot. But what's getting me is that you've had ample opportunity to leave the situation. Was it because, hey, I'm still working on this project, so, I want my work, these 9 songs, you know what I'm saying, to end up on the album. So therefore, I'll just kind of deal with Diddy and do whatever it is that I need to do. But again, you're a grown-ass man. Like you said, you got a family, you got kids. At any point, you could have probably just stopped and just said, man, I don't know about this, and just left. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really get that part. Why didn't he just leave? Again, he still continues to talk about, solicitation of drugs, and illicit sex acts with alleged minors and sex workers. And again, in here, he has a bunch of still shots, of course, videos. The news reporter, I guess, has it. Cuba Gooding Jr. was at the studio. He said he almost got assaulted by Cuba. He got a Look at Cuba though. He is hugged up on this nigga though. This was on the yacht. Cuba look like he'll do anything for a piece of chain. Let me see. Anything else on here that's worth of some importance? All right. Okay, so he goes into the Love album process, of course, and how if anybody that follows Mr. Jones, he did post a couple of live videos where he initially were talking about publishing and not getting his publishing. I believe he also had created a GoFundMe, but he talks about it here on page 23 of the lawsuit. Mr. Jones attempted to work with Mr. Combs to secure his publishing and royalty rights for the work he completed on the Love album. Mr. Combs only offered Mr. Jones $29,000 for 13 months, thousands of hours of work, and 9 songs that made it to the Love album. Ironically, Mr. Jones was willing to take $50,000, his publishing and royalties. Mr. Combs' self-serving greed would not allow him to pay Mr. Jones an additional $21,000. Mr. Combs' deceptive business practices became so bad that Mr. Jones was left with no choice other than to make a public plea on social media for Mr. Combs to pay him for his work. After publicly requesting that Mr. Combs do the right thing and pay him fairly, Mr. Jones received an onslaught of threatening messages from Stevie J and Love Records A&R DeForest Taylor. And he has a screenshot of this particular text message. It says, "Plan da da da." In the public, I guess they going back and forth on the text message. He says that Mr. Combs has used his power and influence to threaten and intimidate him. He said that on one occasion, Mr. Combs, standing in his bedroom, he was forced to watch Diddy display his guns and bragged about getting away with shooting people. Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shine. Damn. Went on to say that J-Lo carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. Of course, if you was around back in 1999, you've heard about this whole incident where ultimately end up spending, I believe, about 10 years in prison. Many have always speculated that Diddy was the one that was actually shooting in the club. And then I believe one of the females that got shot in the club that night, she did recently post a TikTok video as well, just basically stating, "Hey, it is true. I was shot. I was the one that saw Diddy shoot me." She said she even told that to the doctors while she was in the emergency room, and the doctors did go and testify on her behalf as well. But unfortunately, again, like I said, Shine was the one that ultimately ended up spending time in prison. And Mr. Grange, a lot of people, I believe, believes that this man, Mr. Grange, is Diddy's is Diddy's sugar daddy. He's a billionaire, like I said, and he's a CEO. Um, also, he also talks about he noticed some things with them too. He says that whenever Grange visited Mr. Combs at his homes, it would be in the evening, and he and Combs would disappear for hours in Mr. Combs' bedroom. Damn. Mr. Grange sponsored and attended the Love album listening parties. He believes that Grange knew and should have known that Mr. Combs was drugging the attendees through lace bottles of De Leon and Ciroc. And he says that Mr. Combs has specific bottles of alcohol designated for females. That's crazy. And he has other bottles that he would give to like his staff and himself. So, if you guys want to check this out, I may include the link to this lawsuit on YouTube. No, maybe not. Hey, search the internet, you'll find it. Or search social media. Somebody has it pinned on their social media post. You could definitely read through this. You got photos of drugs in here. The alleged drug dealer, somebody named Frankie. Whoever Frankie is. Child. And then they talks about, just how all of this, basically, all of these claims basically constitutes what many would believe to be a RICO enterprise. With the drugs and the guns and the threats of violence, fake promises of cash payments, fake promises of, winning a Grammy Award. Like, how could he even promise him that? Like, really? Guarantee access to future projects, and then at some point he offered him his $20 million home on Star Island. Come on now, dude. Did you really believe that Diddy was drunk or high or something? Come on now. Yeah. So, with all this information in this new lawsuit, and I said this on the last pod when we talked about the Cassie situation as well, there's a lot of things in here that constitutes illegal activity. So, I'm wondering if NYPD, the FBI, had they got to be looking into this shit by now with Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they not, they should. I mean, Diddy is a billionaire, but you would think, because it's a lot of accusations, man. It's just too much. It's a lot of accusations. So, like I said, you guys can definitely check this entire thing out. I'm not going to read all 75 pages, but what I do want to conclude here and say is that it's definitely unfortunate. This particular lawsuit is a little bit, I won't say the word confusing. I would just say skeptical. I don't necessarily believe everything. I do believe that a lot of this is a cash grab for the producer. he may have witnessed these things, but however, he only got the footage because Diddy wanted him to record. And that's, hey, Diddy should have known better. You definitely always take videos and phones, cell phones of people, make them sign NDAs. So I don't know why he didn't do it this time. I'm sure going forward he will be sure to do that. The club shooting back in '99 and the shooting incident that happened at this Chalice recording studio, those things seem to be a little bit more legit. So there could be some legit accusations there. The sex workers and prostitutes, I mean, those girls, if they paid off, they can easily, be a witness for the defendants, showing proof of their age as being adults, as well as maybe, letting them know, hey, we're not no prostitutes, blah, blah, blah. Do I think that Mr. Jones participated willingly in some of this? Yes, of course I do. I think he was, you getting it in, fucking the girls or whatever the case may be. But like I said, once Diddy was not, offering to give him any publishing on the work that he did, he felt some type of way. And then, hey, this was the result of that. So I wonder how you guys feel about this situation. Diddy, I tell you, man, this has been one hell of a year. I do think that although this is Fall from Grace episode part 2, could he come back from this if no criminal charges are brought up against him? He could possibly can. I think that he should definitely make it a point to take this particular to court, to trial if he need to, so that he can clear his name. If all of these lawsuits and he's claiming that everybody is lying and they just want a payday, now is the time for you to take this shit to court and prove your innocence, Diddy. And I think that if you are able to do that, and if you are able to come out on top and successfully win these court cases, then I think that the public will come around. You know what I'm saying? I do think that he definitely should continue to stay out of the spotlight within the next year or so. Stay low key. It's just unfortunate. Do I think Diddy, like a lot of kinky play, kiki freaky things? Yes, I do. But he ain't the only one in this world that likes to do that. Do I think that, some people like to maybe drink alcohol and maybe take some party drugs, as they call it, and engage in sex acts? Yes, I do. That's a person's personal preference, but it does become a problem when you try to impede upon others' lives and personal preferences with your own. Everybody's not really down to do all of that. And definitely they don't want to be threatened or forced to do anything as well. And I think that's where, if this is true about Diddy, I think this is where he definitely needs to do a self-check upon himself and realize that, hey, you can't force your way of life on everyone else. He just can't do that. But I wish them all well, however this thing may go. And until next time, we're going to get out of here. Let me know your comments on the situation. How y'all feel? Do y'all think Mr. Jones is telling the truth? Do y'all think that he's just making up some shit just so he can get money? Let me know your thoughts. Again, we're on all social media platforms and all streaming platforms. Straightforward STR 8 FWD with Ms.B. And until next time, peace out.